We're going to call the meeting to order at 5 o'clock, and the first agenda item is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Correspondence, visitors, and public comments. Do we have any?
I don't have anyone online.
Agenda review.
I have a question on the agenda. Whatever happened with our resolution? Did you ever get any feedback as to what it would be considered? Because usually it's just coming up.
I don't know if Jen did. I received an email asking me again to clarify who to reach out to because their electronic submission form, they confirmed receipt of it, but their electronic submission form wasn't working. I received an email saying who's the contact to reach out to follow up, and I gave them Jen's information.
It's probably next year or something. See the next week or week after. Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Julie?
I was just looking through. I don't see anything that we need to eliminate or change. We're all set?
Next agenda item is approval for the minutes.
Oh, that was pretty.
First,
I can second that.
and Toby seconded.
Toby, second.
Yep.
I'm just repeating it so
Thank you.
you're
I'm
at
trying
here.
to, I was trying to block out music and everything, so.
I'm just gonna turn it down. It's okay.
Any comments on the June 20th, 2023 minutes? All those in favor say aye, please.
Aye.
All those opposed?
You can pass the motion.
Four
right?
yes.
We talked about this. Yeah.
And one abstention, which is Devin. And moving right along is policy adoptions. The first one is C13 students who are homeless.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second that.
Devin's the first, Toby's the second. Any comments?
There's a question that follows the federal legislation.
Absolutely.
Anybody else? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. The second one is F3, which is the fire emergency preparedness drills.
I'll make a motion to adopt policy F3, fire emergency preparation drills.
Thank you, Toby. Anybody second?
Second.
Thank you, Devin. Any comments?
I'm not sure this is an appropriate time to ask this, but you know, this whole security thing that we're going through and talking about, is this will fall in line with this particular bill? Is that going to be a separate policy? Access control and that's, is that
Right.
what that's?
They
what-
both came out of the legislation, out of this
The one
legislative
legislation,
session.
okay.
Yep.
All right.
And they're basically exactly the law.
Yeah, okay.
Anybody else? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And then we have F4, access control and visitor management.
And Jen, you had a great suggestion, I thought, that came out early after the meeting. I don't know how the back report said here, but the other board members to see what Jane had suggested when we were talking about access policy,
To the central office,
central office.
which was, I had suggested, the ring
Right.
doorbell.
Yeah, so Jason's looking into various options, both short-term and longer-term, because he assures me that kind of door could have a pass access to it, which would be helpful. So, yeah, we're working through that.
I think, I'm gonna say it's my concern, I think one concern is we don't want Jerry jumping up every 5 minutes to go to the door. But we want to be access to the public, so.
And she's fine. I talked with her about it before making the amendment after our last meeting. And we did it during COVID. And we have a number of people that are always, if Jerry's at a meeting somewhere or at MVU, like she was yesterday doing some work over there with new teachers, we have somebody who's on deck, right? So it'll take some shifting, but it's the law, so why would we be doing something different out of convenience? I think it's important to do.
Can I get a motion?
I'll make that motion.
All right, Don's the first. Second.
I can second it.
Toby's the second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Jen?
Yes.
I'm just noticing on the last policy, I don't need to go back, but I think the date warned is a typo, at least the one on the drive. It says 6/21/21.
Oh, I have, on the print off, I have 6/21/23.
Yeah, it's been changed.
Oh, okay, so, never mind, sorry, thank you.
Oh, no, good. It's a good catch if it wasn't changed,
The
right?
link took me to this one that had that typo, so, okay.
Excellent. Thank you, Toby.
Yep.
Always usually the person at fault for any typos. So happy to have them pointed out.
Right, moving right along. Number 7, business office, we have warrants.
Yes.
All right, so warrants for the month of June. Total amount of $2,889,760.95. So I'll make a motion to approve the check warrants in that amount.
Thank you, Toby. And a second. Thank you, Julian. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And then next we have the tax anticipation list.
Okay, so we solicited rates for both deposit accounts along with tax anticipation notes with a reinvestment option this year from 4 banks, Community Bank, M&T, People's Trust, and Union. M&T Bank is our current bank for all of our deposit accounts, but we've been with them for quite a while, since before the merger, so we thought maybe now is a good time, plus with rates increasing, to look at deposit accounts at the same time as the tax anticipation. Our tax anticipation last year was with Union Bank, so M&T for operating in the deposit accounts and Union for the tax anticipation with reinvestment option, and that worked quite well. We made over $100,000 in interest this year. I'm trying to think of how to start this conversation. So I'll start with the tax anticipation information that we received, and just for the recording purposes, Community Bank provided a option, 2 options. Option 1 was a fully dispersed loan with reinvestment option of $9 million. The rate on the borrowing would be 3.78%. The reinvestment would yield 4.23%. So it would basically we would net 0.45%. So we'd be making that amount of interest, and that would be fully dispersed. So we would receive those funds, that interest rate on anything not being utilized. It would just accrue. Option 2 was just a typical line of credit, so a non-revolving line of credit for the $9 million, and the rate on that would be 4.63, and there would not be a reinvestment. M&T Bank provided just one rate on a $9.5 million line of credit with a reinvestment option. Their reinvestment would actually go to our operating account, not in a separate account. But their interest rate on the line of credit was 6.35%. So we basically,
6.35.
yeah. And I spoke to her and she just said with all the issues that banks have been having, she wasn't able to do any better than that. She apologized, but that was the best that she could do. The reinvestment would only yield 4.5 in the operating, so we'd be losing 1.85%, or it would be costing us 1.85%. So they're basically not in the running. People's Trust, which is one of our local banks, offered no reinvestment option. They typically have not, but a line of credit for $9 million, either a 6-month term, which is really all that we need because our cash flow represents that our highest deficit happens at 6 months, but they gave a 6-month and a 12-month. 6-month would be 1.85%, and the 12-month would be 2%, but there's no reinvestment, so it's just strictly expense. So they're basically probably not an option either. Union Bank has been extremely eager for our business for a few years now. They did have our tax anticipation note last year. They are the ones that sort of introduced the reinvestment option to us a couple of years ago. They've worked with me a lot on how to avoid arbitrage and run into issues there. They've had us work with legal counsel on that. They provided option 1 is a line of credit with a reinvestment option, actually at a higher amount, 9.9. We can't go anything over 10, but we could go as high as 9.9. The borrowing would be 3.88% for that with a reinvestment at 4.25, so we'd be basically yielding 0.37%, slightly lower than Community Bank at 0.45. So those are really kind of the two top options for the tax anticipation. Option 2 is just a line of credit with Union, if that's almost at 5% with no reinvestment. So, yep.
Oh, you got it printed out?
Yes.
I didn't even look at it. Anyway, I guess my question is, People's Trust will loan us money for 6 months for 1.85.
Yes. But with no reinvestment. So it's gonna only cost us money. We wouldn't be making any money.
No, but you can we as a school district can reinvest it with other people, right?
We could potentially, but it would be a lot more cumbersome of a process having a separate bank do that. With the guarantee, there's a lot of rules on how much we can borrow and.
For 20 years.
Sorry?
I said I did it for 20 years that way.
Oh, okay, well.
No, I mean, I'm not, I just want to know, it's a little more paperwork, it's a little more complicated, but
I didn't have any of these banks tell me that they would be willing to, I guess I could, with any of them, try to get a rate for reinvesting, but I haven't discussed that with anyone.
How much do we gain at Union Bank between borrowing and investment?
0.37,
0.37.
and for community it would be 0.45. If we take into account now that if we were willing to move our deposit accounts, which I do, Julie's been listening to me, not complain, but weigh these options in my head for the last couple of days because this is not an easy thing to do. And it's all of our deposit accounts, which includes all hot lunch accounts, student activities, it's all of our credit cards, which right now are very, very active in the summer for purchasing. It's, completely changing our accounting system. So it's a major undertaking when you're changing banks, but given the rates that they've quoted and because they're just so high right now, we'd be willing to do that. But if we think about this as kind of a package, Union Bank is the only bank that was willing to lock in a rate on our deposit accounts of 4%. Everyone else has quoted rates and they're fairly high to start, but they're tied to the federal rates. And so they would be adjusted monthly based on what the federal rates do.
Is the offer of 4% from Union contingent on also getting the
No.
loan? It's not. So there's your solution to take the 1.85 expense and go deposit it over at Union and earn 4%.
I haven't asked that question specifically. And I would want to work with legal counsel if we were going to do something like that, because there are a lot of rules and regulations and laws about where we can invest our money, how we can invest our money, what the risk can be, arbitrage, terms, how much you can borrow at one time.
There was a period of time when you could not do this reinvestment.
Right. You always could do the
I mean, you
reinvestment.
couldn't do it with the same bank.
You couldn't do it if you were going to run into arbitrage.
Right,
Yeah.
you could not do that.
So basically there's limits on how much you can believe that you're going to make. It has a lot more to do with your projections and your cash flow than it does with your actuals, which is sounds strange. That's the truth, and I have that in writing from a lawyer.
I personally think investment rates are gonna go up. They've been climbing.
So I did some research on that. The federal rates are projected to go up through the remainder of this year, and then they're going to fall slightly. So we potentially would go below the 4% after that. So that's what I'm worried about with like M&T. They're guaranteeing us a rate, initial rate of 4.5%, but within a couple months, it's going to go down. Also, I talked to Julie today, their number one government banking representative that we've had forever just retired. And M&T was also recently, was a new, they acquired People's United also recently, and that didn't go that well. So a lot of people have left. There's only one person left that I know at that bank now, government
It's
banking.
too bad because our family was M&T for 20 years, so virtually,
Right.
it's a Tennessee bank.
So making any, what I would, I guess in the, taking the money and investing somewhere else, it's not like your personal finance where you can max out your earnings. This would cap our earnings. This cash flow that I provided to quote the 9.9 million, the interest rates that we have would max us out, and that if we went any higher than that, we would run into arbitrage and we would owe the money back. So anything higher than that.
We get our taxes by the 1st of December. I know the towns can keep the money for a certain period, so we get it by the 1st of December usually.
Usually, yeah, sometimes November, but yeah, definitely December.
And our state aid comes, first state aid payment comes when?
There's one in November. Yep.
And that's probably the only one in this calendar year, right?
Right.
I think, I'm not thinking school year, I'm thinking
Yeah.
banks, investments.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna make a motion because I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm in favor of the people's trust at 1.85. The rest of you don't have to decide how you want to handle it.
So Laura, that last comment you just made, are you saying that the borrowed amount and the reinvestment rates and everything for both community and union result in a projection of essentially zero?
Say that again, sorry. I thought you were going somewhere else with the question, that's why.
So the dollar amounts borrowed and then the combination of the rates, both the interest we pay and the reinvestment rate, are you saying that for both of those banks, the projection that you have to prepare comes out to zero?
We would basically max out the interest that we are able to accrue.
So they're essentially equivalent according to that projection?
They're slightly different because we're borrowing different amounts. One's at 9 million, one's at 9.9.
Right, but with the different rates, is I'm saying they kind of come out to that max that you.
Community Bank could have offered to, maybe I'm not understanding your question. Community Bank could have said, I will lend you 9.9, and they chose not to. Based on my cash flow, they could have.
Okay.
They chose not to.
So
we will yield slightly more interest.
Slightly better?
Yes. My recommendation would be to go with Union, only because they also are guaranteeing us 4% in our deposit account. And that will have all of our accounts, they will sweep automatically on a daily basis along with our tax anticipation note. We will never have even 2 days where, because if we do different banks, sometimes it can take 2 to 4 days to have a transfer go through. Well, if you're talking about a transfer of $4 million and you're not paying interest on that money for even a few days, it adds up. So every time we transfer also, that could be the case.
So is community bank a better deal than community bank?
Technically, on the tax anticipation note alone, with the reinvestment option, Community Bank is at 0.45, that we would net 0.45 instead of 0.37, but they will not lock in a rate for our operating account. And we always have a few $1 million in our operating account, at least, at a minimum.
So that's a sweep account, whatever that's floating.
Right. But they would only guarantee, and I had to actually kind of push them on this, a 2.5% initial rate on the operating. And they won't guarantee it. It's tied to the federal rate and it'll be reviewed monthly.
But the other rates are solid.
M&T will not. They'll start at 4.5, but it's tied to the federal rate. People's Trust they said they needed more information on our operating. They wouldn't provide a quote. And Union Bank locked in at 4.
So as a package, what I'm hearing is
Yeah.
Union Bank is the better
Total
total package.
Guaranteed total.
Guaranteed
package.
total package, without variability because they're locking in at 4.
That means we're moving all of our accounts to them.
which I know is a lot of work, but we've
Figure it out.
talked through, since really it feels as if M&T is not, is, you know, we already have a separate account with
We have all of our
M&T.
operating accounts. I am extremely concerned now that Lori Tarian left government. Like, she retired out of government banking and Ben is gone. Like, we have no contact, nobody that I feel like would really advocate for us anymore, which is a little bit concerning for me.
Are they the ones that made the error with the paperwork when we were borrowing for the lights? Is that?
No, that's Vermont municipal leasing. No.
Oh, okay.
So Laura, if we take, if you were to go everything to Union, you're gonna have to close an account.
We're gonna have to close all of our accounts. We've consolidated them all, but
No, but the one in M&T, we would no longer do business with.
we would have
M&T.
no business with M&T anymore.
Okay, so that's gonna mean starting opening a new account.
Opening probably around 10. We used to have about 20 accounts. We've really reduced them now. We track everything with funds, but we still have a few. Hot lunch accounts are required by law to be separate accounts. There's a few different ones, but that's it. But we moved everything else, like even our scholarship accounts and everything are now in this higher building.
So those would all move.
They would all move, yeah. Well, they're part of our operating now is what I'm saying, but between all the hot lunch, all the student activities, there's probably about 10 or 11 accounts.
So are you in the place now where you feel that you're recommending Union to the board?
That would be my recommendation, of course, it's not my decision to make, but Union Bank has, through the course of the last year, when we had our revolving line of credit with them, they have been extremely attentive. They've monitored our accounts. They've driven paperwork to me 30 minutes out of their way. They call on a regular basis just to say, I just was overlooking your accounts. Maybe I can get you a better rate on this. Maybe I can do this for you. Oh, do you understand arbitrage? Would you like to talk to our legal counsel? That's, when you're doing this kind of business, it's nice to know that that's happening. And then their rates are pretty good. The fact that they're locking in the 4% for the year is attractive to me. I have to say, Don, People's Trust has really not been eager for our business. I don't know why, but I haven't had much attention.
I don't think they do much school business, doing something with records.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think they seek school business.
Or maybe the reinvestment option is just not something they're interested in, but they know that that's something we're
I think
doing.
they have a new guy that's been there maybe 3 or 4 years, who used to have a business, and Donna should be
Yeah.
Well, I'll make a motion to accept the Union Bank bid for our operating account and option 1 for our tax anticipation note, also the Union Bank. That's the one that includes the investment option.
I will second that. Jen?
Okay, Dylan's the first, Toby's the second. Any further discussion? Comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed. And I just want to add a little footnote. I appreciate all the work that Laura and everybody does on it, but I want to be real careful that we don't walk in the competition, because it's too many years, because this is public information. And if I'm a bank and I submitted this year and I beat the Union Bank, but I didn't get it, then it's almost like a bus contract. 2 or 3 years out, they'll deal with the Union Bank, they'll come and talk to us. And I can tell you that from experience, that there's a couple of districts that I've consulted with. But it's okay, if that's what the board wants, I'm only one board member. But if we come back next year and again, that's a situation I think we need to be real careful that we don't then have the other banks not even submit it.
I guess I would say, I hope the takeaway is that we're interested in a reinvestment option.
Right.
To me, that's the difference there.
Yeah, no,
Also, just, I hope that we don't have to go out to bid for all of our deposit accounts every year. I would like to establish more like a 3 or 5 year cycle. It is a tremendous amount of work, so, and that's what we've kind of been operating under unofficially, but maybe we should put a procedure or something in place for that. And then with, of course, the tax anticipation note, we would every year, so that could potentially change every year, and we do typically solicit all of these banks every year for that, yeah. But it's just such a sum of money, it doesn't make sense not to go out to bid for that, yeah.
Thank you, Laura.
Yeah.
Motion carries, 4 to 1, 4 in favor, 1 opposed. New professional hires, Julie?
Food is ready, she's saying she wasn't sure if you wanted to wait, and probably a few minutes at least.
Yeah, just a few.
Yeah.
Okay, so we just have 2 new hires, and I am meeting with somebody else, so I'll have somebody else for you in our next meeting. The first is for MVU, Eli Rankin, who will be a high school math interventionist. And the second is Tyler Anderson, who will be a special educator, also at MVU.
Thank you, Julie.
It does say action, so you need a motion to accept
We do.
I'll make the motion to accept the 2 professional hires that Julie just named.
Thank you, Julie. Julie's the first, anybody want a second? Seconds.
And I have a question.
Absolutely.
We're gradually filling up our special education center.
Yes, I mean, there are still vacancies, but we have a plan for all of them, and it's not a tremendous number. We're in a better place than many other
I know
districts.
that Chris and some of the people said last time they do have a plan B that they'll
We do.
implement. So
We only have 1 vacancy in Swanton now, and for special ed, and we do have somebody who will come back to do an alternate service for kids, so, yeah. we're in good
That was
shape.
my question. In general, we're still pretty good.
Yes, we
Okay.
are doing pretty well. We're moving forward. We passed a point of where, okay, we can make things work, I think in May, so we're doing well.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Future board meetings will be August 8th at the MVU Library at 6 p.m. And then there was the board meeting dates and locations to click on to get the new schedule.
Yes.
Has it changed?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. It was
Oh, you haven't checked it
I
out?
just linked it so that
Yeah,
the
okay.
community can see and the board can
Perfect.
see it.
I think it would be great to keep that on every agenda.
Yeah.
That would be perfect.
As I update it,
Yeah.
it just automatically is
Perfect.
visible.
And a new sign will announce.
I did see it's up.
Yeah, it's
It
nice.
should
It's
be
very
working by
sharp.
tomorrow, hopefully.
Very sharp.
Yeah.
The kids were very excited.
Hey, Peter. All right. Would somebody like to make the motion to adjourn the meeting at 5:32 p.m.?
I will make the motion.
Toby's first, Devin's the second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0, meeting adjourned.